we are joined bench tips tonight by the wonderful Stephen Goldsmith, aka the Gold Polisher. If you don't know who he is, then we will tell you a bit more about him, but he is amazing, a little bit of a legend in this field. Obviously, he won't say that himself. And I'll be here to do all the bigging up, the hype. But yes, and we're going to be sharing all about Stephen's polishing tips with us tonight. So just before we get started and into the questions, I can see there's lots of questions already, which is brilliant. Stephen, do you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you are called the Gold Polisher?
Oh no, it's just amazing. If you was to speak to any other polisher, they go, I just don't know what he's on. I remember seeing about maybe 4 polishers at Goldsmiths Hall, and I was just like I am even with them, and they know what to do. And it's just, I think it was because I can talk to people easy. So whereas other polishers, not like that. So I had a very good grounding. Obviously, I said in my Instagram thing that I was, when I was about maybe 13, 14, this is like, this is in late 60s. I mean, long before anybody else had maybe born. But my dad died when I was 10. So we went on. Anyway, we had to make some money. And my mum said, you've got to get out to work. So I did farm job, newspaper rounds. I did everything. Then eventually I was had to go to careers advice. And they said, what do you want to do with your life? I went, I want to be a cartoonist. I went, you can't be a cartoonist. That's not possible. And I went, well, Disney's done it. Anyway, they said, no, you're an artist and you're good at metalwork. And next door is the College of Art and Design and Art College there, next door in Rochester. So I did a foundation course. I left school at 15. Then I actually did that for I did it for a whole year. So you like do all things, aspects of the trade, including ceramics. So I do silversmithing, hardly any polishing. I really want to be a silversmith. Anyway, when it come to it, there's no silversmith jobs. So I ended up being a polisher because Norman Basson, who just recently died, he got me the job at CJ Vanders. So I did a 4-year apprenticeship and they released silversmithing. So then I went on to work for Stuart Devlin. Then I went on to working for Garrard's, the Crown Jewellers. And I stayed with Garrard's for 26 years. So, but the best thing that ever happened to me was in 2003, I got made redundant. It was I was devastated, but I actually got to join with Theo Fennell. The best bloke, I think. He's the best designer in the trade, and he's like really thought. You most really know him. Everybody who meets Theo, he's like, sometimes there's prizes to be given, and he go, there should be another one. And he puts his hand in his pocket and gives the money to the extra prize. I mean, he's such a generous person. And that's what I worked for him for 18 years. And I really that was enjoyable for me. And you get to meet, all the celebrities and everything like that, which was really nice. But you couldn't take any selfies or anything like that.
You had to enjoy the moment, be present.
If he said, if you say who you've been working for, I'll kill you. So you can never tell anybody who you work for, So it's an interesting time. So, and then I obviously, while I was working for Theo, at 2007, I started teaching as well. And the story goes, which is the truth story, that once a year, I'd go to the Birmingham University in summer school, and I would teach for a week, up to 4 days, and it was basically coming out of my workshop, meet the public for once a year. Now I meet the public once a month.
Every day on Instagram.
Every day on Instagram, yeah. So there you go.
Wonderful. Well, Stephen, we have so many questions for you.
No.
Yes, we've got lots of lined up. So anyone who's new here, just to let you know, if you want to ask Stephen a question, there is an ask questions section. So there's the chat where you can kind of chat with each other, but we may miss questions in there. So if you want him to answer a question, we'll get through as many as we can, but make sure you put them in the ask a question section just so we don't miss them. And you can vote them up and down. So we're going to start with the ones at the top that have been voted. This is votes. And this is from Cara Clay. Thank you, Cara, for the question. She said, what are the best rotary or Fordham attachments for polishing? And maybe you can share a bit about, what you like about them.
Yeah, well, as with everything, you've got to start at the beginning. So you've created your file marks, and now we've got to get rid of them. So you've got to think of a way of doing it. And in all honesty, all these like the 3M radial wheels and all that, they wear out in seconds, don't they? They really do wear out in seconds. So, and obviously the other ones are now the rubber wheels, D-Flex, and I've got some other ones. I actually, they're E-Flex. Look at this. So I've got these ones. I'm mostly going to be killed because I actually get to try out tools before everybody else tries them out. So
right.
Let's just have a look. You can see that. Look, whether you can.
Yeah.
See. That's like an E-Flex, but they're from Cousins, right?
Mm-hmm. Between the 3M and the rubber ones.
Yeah, these are. Well, right. So I've done a job. Where have we got that? So I've done a job, and they didn't wear out. And I've done quite a few of this. It was like a serrated sort of 3D ring, and normally they're like really sort of something that's going to wear out instantly. But with these new dental type things, there we go. Like,
what are they called, Stephen?
they're called radial twist.
Radial twist.
Yes.
Alrighty, and they're from Cousins.
I got them from Cousins. I don't know. I asked them, and they're not very good on their social media for answering questions. But I really like them. The one thing I know I'm spending too long on a question.
No, it's fine.
What I understand is with all of these, the Fordhams, the Dremels, they're all running quite fast. Whereas I polish at 3,000, and the Dremels they got up to 15. Fordhams. So, but these things, I've got pictures here. Look, this is good. Look, back to front, possibly. But you can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
So, and then the other one. But what they don't understand is this. These are your colours, and when you buy a Cookson, they actually jump. They jump from 400 grit. Maybe they might go 3,000. And then they go 14,000. But it does, to me, it doesn't equate. How can you remove 3,000? So, but the trick with these things here is you've got to use 3. Don't just use 1, and you make sure they go the right way round. Sort of don't go twist that way. Make sure they all go the same way. That will get in your nooks and crannies. I really like with the E-Flex, these ones. And these, I like the lighter colours. So the greener colour, I like pink. They're good for they won't get it shiny, but they get your marks out.
Yeah, because it might be useful to just talk basically through the stages of polishing, just for anyone who's new.
Right.
Let's say piece. What's the first step? And yeah.
Right. So this is something which I was talking about last night. It's a flapper wheel, right? So you've got if this is on your Fordham or Dremel or whatever, they fit in, and this will polish inside the ring. So what we need to do is get rid of the file marks, and obviously when we're talking silver, we're talking about fire scale. The curse of the silver polisher, fire stain. It's the copper that comes to the surface. Some people actually break it slightly, and then they go, "Oh, something gone on with my silver," and I go, "Not really. It's you've broken through. Once you break away from the copper, go to the shiny silver underneath." So so you're polishing your file marks out with maybe something would be start at 300 grit, and then move all the way through your grits to 2,000. And 2,000 paper, wet and dry. I use, what do I use? Micromesh. Right?
Yeah.
Not selling anything.
Aren't they?
Yeah, they're lovely. They're like waterproof and everything like that. And they go up to 12,000 grit. Quite honestly, if you was to go up to 12,000 grit, you won't even need a polisher. You just put it on a finishing mop and you'd be fine. So I've so many. I brought tools with me in here in my office because we was asking about the flapper wheels. There's see this one here, look. It says 320. So that would be a good starting point for you to get rid of your file marks.
Is that a flapper wheel or is that like
That's the flapper wheel.
Yeah.
And the flapper wheel, they have like emery in them and Scotch Brite. So, and I really.
Is that your first step, Stephen?
Yes, it's the first step.
Okay, got you. Because it's quite coarse, so it will get the big file marks out. And then what do you move on to next?
Right, so once I'm happy with the stages of up to the grit, I then use a brush. And so I've got little brushes here for you. So these are completely this sort of thing. That's a tiny brush for me. It might look big, so it looks really big. It's tiny, it's tiny. So, but these are all convertible with your pendant motors. So you can get little ones. What I really don't like is those white ones, which are nylon. They're like, I think they're a bit too stiff for you and they could maybe what I call guttering. Anyway, we use one of these black bristle brush, whether it's on a pendant motor, whether it's on a machine. You use it with a thing called brushing emery compound. Right? It's very aggressive, and to anybody, it's a black bar. You can buy Menzerna bars in black, and what else we got? The blue one, I think, I've got all these colours here, I'll tell you. I've got all these things.
Different polishing compounds.
Yeah, so I do charts. So if you was doing, with that black bristle brush, if you was to use 456G Menzerna with a brush, that will get your file marks out, will get your fire stain out. If it was a Luxie, it's the blue bars, super aggressive. And then see all your different colours. So what I don't really get with all these people, now I go black, dark colours are aggressive, but then a light colour would be kind, yeah? But look at that one there, look. That one there. That's aggressive.
Right, so it doesn't match up.
Match up with the way I think. Crazy life.
Pastel colours are actually more aggressive, and the dark ones are light and soft. Got it.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? So anyway, we use one of these, whatever you like, Dremel, whatever. And then I've got it here. Now, it would be in the mop, look, B mop, my mops, they're a cream colour. Now, if that was on a Dremel, it'd be still a cream colour. It'd still be the same mop, just tiny.
One. The baby one. Yeah.
But this is obviously 102. So, I always use narrow ones. But when I'm teaching, I try and get a wider one. Don't think I've got any wider ones here, no. So I use maybe a 24 wide because it's safer. So people don't drop off the mop. Where I can just go boom, boom, boom like this and drop off the mop. So we go through to the second stage, which is a B. Now the compound I'm using, I'm not being paid for this, right? Menzerna 164, which is a blue bar. Traditionally, it would be Triple E, the brown bar. Everybody knows Triple E. That's an all-rounder. So you use that, and once you're happy, you've got through your brush marks, you've got rid of them, you go to your mop, you're getting your first shine, and then you just go with a reflex mop, which is always white. Always white. And I use a Rouge with it. And whatever makes you want to use rouge. Some people don't like it. I do. But then you see me with the rake. You know, I rake, always keeping my tools clean. What I think people do is they actually put too much compound on the mop or too much on the brush, then they get too dirty. I've seen, like today, I've seen people saying to me, I always get dirty. Well, I don't get dirty. I could have been polishing today, I'd still look like this. So, it's just,
You've mastered the art, Stephen.
52 years, you can sort of dodge.
Yeah.
And it's your position of where you're standing. So some jewelers, polishers, they sit. Silver polishers, like doing trophies, they usually stand.
Yeah.
And if I get a tall person, I always make them sit no matter what. So they keep clean.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll sort of...
Yeah.
So we've got a link there. Anna's got a link.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks, Anna. So we've got some stages and process. So we start with our files. We want to make sure we get the file marks out. Yeah. And then we move on to the flapper wheels.
Yeah.
Then we move on to the brushes with the compound. And then we move on to the Tripoli and the rouge. So we've got a process. We've got a system.
But so once I clean this mop out, really important, this bit, right? This stuff, right? If anybody knows, you have all my people over there, I can see them over it. Maybe this is Menzerna 175. Now you can't use this. It has no grip. It's just a wet look.
Right.
It would make file marks look shiny.
So they look more prominent.
So basically, I use it on jewellery with loads of little balls and all those sort of things. So I like bring up the highlights. So yeah, hopefully we've answered the question in a roundabout way.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you, Cara. The next question from Nicole is best way to avoid fire scale. But I wonder if the question is really, once you have fire scale, what to do about it. I don't know. Like if there's kind of...
It's been a thing, fire scale, obviously. We use a thing called fire scoff. I'm not a silversmith, but I know that's what jewellers use, fire scoff, Argotec. I used to, when I was a lad, we used to use the borax cone. We just coat it all. The main thing is like, what you're doing is you're building, every time you put it through the solder stage, you're heating it up, so you're building on the fire again. So building up layers. So I always go, if you're going to put, say, maybe a collet on a band, you would prep it first, then put the collet on. Because then when you put the collet on, there's less fire to get rid of.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. So you need to
try not to overheat the piece or use more fire than needed is always helpful.
Fire scoff is the thing, but once you get rid of use these brushes with the black compound, you'll be like laughing, I tell you. The compound is, when you put your nail in it gives a groove, so you know it's soft. So what happens with the brush, it molds into the brush, and you can do it other ways, but I don't want to complicate matters. But that's the best way for you to do it, is by these little black bars. There's companies that supply little black bars now rather than the big, because what I don't like is people in these big companies are ripping off the students, make you pay £30 for a bar of compound that you'll never use in your life. So, right, back on.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you for the question, Nicole. Suzanne says, what polishing compounds and brands do you recommend for gold and silver? So you've talked about the process and the kind of ones you recommend. Is it the same for gold and silver?
I use, it sort of depends what colour gold you're doing it, right? So if you're using that's yellow gold, I use this. I like Menzerna bars. Menzerna, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not being sponsored, right? At all. They don't even know I exist. So
they will now.
They will now, but I get it's big in the automobile thing as well, the polishing with the lorries and all that. They all use Menzerner. So anyway, what's quite good about it is in the old days, we would like get the bars and it would go up your nose and you'd go, you know, it's terrible. Whereas now, this is the bar, and if I was to put my nail in it, I was, nothing happens. So that means if you do that, it's not going to go off the mop. It's not going to fly in your nose. Anyway, the gold and silver. Yellow for yellow gold. And there's M5, M for mother, 5, Menzerner, is for white metals. Remember that? And that is like the ultimate wet look for rouge. But now, if we're going to go, we're talking about gold, don't use the brushing emery. This is when it gets confusing because brushing emery is just too aggressive for yellow gold. You won't have any gold left. So I use Tripoli, the brown bar.
So when you're polishing gold, you go straight from the flapper wheel to the Tripoli. You skip out the
aggressive one, yeah.
Okay, got ya. Yeah.
And obviously the silicone wheels you can go through if you was using the silicone, the drums, the E-Flex, these, there's a certain system. You can see the system. So we have blue, fit as coarse, grey is medium, brown is fine, green is extra fine. I really like the green one. If you didn't get it fine inside the ring, then you're like cotton wool challenge and you're away. So everybody knows about the cotton wool challenge.
Tell us about the cotton wool challenge, just in case.
It's something that I do on most courses. Is that so? You've got a bare spin. You can do it on a little spindle. I did it yesterday on my Instagram. So basically, you get a piece of cotton wool. So it's pleated cotton wool only. Don't go buying the ones with the old pads and doing all this. So it's the pleated cotton wool, and you whip it open. So you got that, and you tear it apart, and you spit on it. This is what. So COVID, it was like we're doing it spray, the hand gel. So now I started making my students kiss it. I'm wicked. Anyway, so they slip it underneath the spindle, it catches, and then it wraps around, and then you put the rouge on it, then you put your ring inside, and it polishes the inside of your rings. So you can do that on a Dremel or Ford with a little mini arbor, the little spindles. You just get a little bit of cotton wool, spin it on there, put your compound on it, and it gets all in there. Maybe say a skull, so you might want the eyes shiny, or your collets shiny. I always say where your stone goes in, I like the shiny hole. So basically shine the hole up, then your stone goes in, it gives a good reflection in your stone.
Yeah.
If it's like a matte finish, makes the stone look rubbish.
Yeah.
So the cotton wool challenge is something that I do in my classes, but I choose my people, the students, to do it, who can be fun. Because I'm not directing what you got to do, and my students to know what I'm doing.
There we go, cotton wool challenge. Try this at home.
What was the Menzerner without the grit for the wet look? Right, that was 175. Okay.
175. That's the yellow one.
The yellow one. That's no cut, no grit, just pure shine.
Final end situation. And we had the M5 for white metals.
That's right.
Yeah. This is being recorded, so if you need to go back and make notes, it's fine. It's all here.
And it's all in the book, obviously. It's all in the book.
It's all in the book. Quickly mention the book for anyone who doesn't know. This is Stephen's book.
Thank you.
It's called Polishing and Finishing for Jewelers and Silversmiths. I actually have 2 of them here in the workshop because I need to. It's a brilliant book, great reference book, highly recommended. Go and get it if you haven't already, because it's just something we should have in the workshop. It's not expensive and it's got great value.
I mean, it's like a bargain, isn't it? I mean,
bargain, absolutely.
I know I'm not meant to be looking at those questions. The sound about the Tripoli block is massive. But it's quite reasonably priced. It's not like a fortune. It's like maybe £5 for this whole thing. And what I always say to people is, cut it up and share it share it.
Give it to the jewelry friends.
Yeah. I mean, you can go in. There's companies that I use to buy this where it's little blocks.
Mm.
So I can tell you that it was what's the mock? The people are. It's called the polishing shop. The polishing shop, and they will actually give you, well, not give you, but a bar like this with VAT and packing might be £5.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not a. Whereas you go to the other people, you're going, Cooks and Walsh's or whatever, you're starting at £17 for a bar of compound. Whereas the Tripoli, the big brick, is a fiver. I wouldn't even worry about that. What I'm going to give you a warning about Tripoli, it has been known to be carcinogenic. So make sure if you feel a bit unwell, mask on.
Yeah.
Don't rely on that extraction. Don't rely on that extraction.
Yeah. Wear a mask when you're using the compounds, definitely, especially when this is a regular.
Yeah, regular. If you're doing it, I mean, because a lot of these machines, they say they're good extraction, but they're really, I mean, they're just toys. It's not even as good as a Hoover. I always say to people, just get a Henry and set it all up and suck it on the side.
Henry.
And when we're teaching, it's cleaning it all the time. So keep the dust down, especially when you're finishing, because what happens when you finish is that you'll suddenly think, oh, where's that scratch come from? And it's most probably something in the air. Because if we're going to talk about Mohs scale, people ask me, oh, how do you polish titanium? How do you polish steel? How do you polish silver? How do you polish gold? So I know the Mohs scale. So I know silver's 3. So you've got a hammer, that's 5. Titanium's 7. So when I look at these Mohs scale for metals, I know how to polish it.
Yeah.
So we're all mainly polishing silver. So it's only quite easy, 3. It's it's not much. Your fingernails maybe about 2, if that. It's so soft. So you can buff, how you can buff your nails up nice and shiny. So silver's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it's soft metal, isn't it? And then some of the golds are even softer. So
definitely, yeah. Obviously that one there, you can see that is pure gold.
Wow.
That one's about 5 kilo, and so pure gold. So when I was dealing with them, they never told me they never told me what metal it was. So suddenly I got a shock. It's like, I thought it'd be 18, but no, when it's 24, you've got a 24 carat pure gold. No mixing of metals.
Very soft, yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, we have lots more questions, so
we'll need to get through
them. Ross says, any tips for a mixed finish? For example, satin ring on the outside and highly polished on the inside. And maybe we can talk a bit about satin finishes because we're not.
Yeah, satin finish. So obviously, I'm going to get some of my tools out. So
do it.
This one here is called a ring felt. So it normally goes on there, and I've got my ring. I always use my ring. Basically, you polish in. So I'm always doing this. So I polish from the bottom, and I use Tripoli, only Tripoli on a felt. It does nothing else works. So you push down the bottom like that, and you move it around. Right. What are we going here? That's it. So my that's it. My computer went to sleep.
Still here. You're still here.
Anyway, so when I've shined it all up with the Tripoli on these, now you can use them obviously on the Dremels. You could use your silicone drums, or just get a felt and polish the inside. Right, now this is the secret for me. We're all happy with the shiny inside. I then put it on there. It protects it. And then I would do what finish I like. i.e., what we got? We could use one of those, a flapper wheel with a Scotch-Brite on it. That would be great for your Fordham. And obviously, what I'm doing is those wheels. Look at that.
That's a big one. I've got little ones.
I don't like using the little ones.
Yeah.
This one's got the flick on it, the little flick, which is unusual. They're look. That's no. This is the super aggressive.
Yeah.
This one here, if it would be equivalent of like a bull burr, you know, on the back of a brooch or something. You could do a bull burr you take all day over this, but you could do that in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But what you have to have is the thickness of metal. And these things, what I call them frosting wheels, is they will not disguise a bad casting.
Right.
You know,
they're not gel-free card. We have to do some work first.
You've got to do the work. Whatever textures you do, get it up to at least 400, at least that, before we start thinking about textures, because it's an interesting subject about sateen finishes. Is even the sateen finish. I do on my course. I do 4 finishes which are all different, and one could be like of the back of a watch, which is sateen watch. Then you have the speckle finishes. You know, then you get the one where I get the wet sponge and a pumice powder and I rub it over. But that one is great for us doing sculptures, but no, not always great or maybe doing a piece of jewellery. Especially, you know, when you've got your ring and you want to like do half and half. So you want to do half and half. So you do bright one side and matte the other. So you have to mask it off. So polish it all up, mask it, and then you can do all your satin finishes what you want. It all depends whether you want directional finish or whether you want a speckled finish. I quite like speckled finishes. If you use a really matte finish, then it shows up the scratches more when they knock it. You know, so I really like. That's one of my favourites, the red one. It's not about the colour of the thing. It's about the thickness of that wire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got that wire. Look, that's thick.
Thicker. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that one, just because it's green, it doesn't mean that one. Some of the Chinese might actually say this one's a fine one. You know, you've got to be really careful.
Yeah, don't listen to the colours. Listen to the descriptions.
Look at the thickness. I really like the frosting. Other people call them texturizing brushes. I call them frosting brushes.
The frosting.
I think everybody should just stick with what I say. But anyway, so you polish the inside, and then you get it onto a ring felt or any piece of wood, and just go turn it, and then you'll get the texture what you want. I really like some of the ones that are more nylon-y, sort of. They look like Scotch-Brite, but when you press, they're a bit more spongy, get more give to them. And what I always, on my courses, I always say to everybody, use Google Lens. Google Lens is your friend, right? If you take a photograph of this, right, take a photograph of that, share it to Google Lens, it will then tell you where I bought it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I'm not an Apple person, so Google Lens mostly works on the Apple as well. So
wonderful. Great. And when you take off the pieces, do you use masking tape for that? So let's say I've made a ring, it's all super shiny, and I want to make half of it on the outside.
Yeah.
That satin or matte finish.
Yes, matte. Sometimes Walsh do a really good tape. I can't remember the name of it. It's in the book. It's like sellotape, but it's brown. And you can get it from Amazon, and you can get it. It's what watchmakers use. And because I was talk Gucci and all sorts. So when you get the bright coloured screw heads on a Gucci watch. So Walsh actually sell the tape, which has got the little dots. So when you put it over your screw heads, you take away the tape, and it leaves all the tape on the screw heads. Do you still have shiny screw heads? It's a big question from Pittsburgh there, crumbs.
All right, we have some more. I'm working through. There's
Crack on.
chat. It's confusing because there's the chat and then the questions. So I'm working through the questions. Thank you for the questions, guys. That was another good one. Okay, next up is from Jessica, who says, I would love to hear top tips on cleaning off excess polishing compound, usually ZAM, especially on pieces with stones that don't like the ultrasonic. So maybe you can...
Right, yeah. Now, my students actually know what I'm going to say. And it's so funny because when you get all this, like the ZAM, we've got a better one over in England, better than ZAM, but they have only, in the USA, they use ZAM. It's a bit more greasy than our one. And anyway, what I do, I use this thing called Vienna lime. The country Vienna, right? Lime. I mix it with water into a yogurt paste. And then I get a brush. We've got a little brush here, look. Got loads of little brushes. Yeah, look, it's great brushes. Look.
Vienna lime, water.
That brush.
Like a shaving brush, yeah.
So we use the Vienna lime, the paste, and we coat the job. And when you use a white brush, the white goat's hair brush, yeah, there's one. Look, I've got one. I found one.
And you've got some tricks.
Look at that. That's courtesy of Walsh's, right? I've got to say that. They gave that to me. They don't give me much. But anyway, these brushes are really super soft. And this is the brush. You know when I was saying about soft mops, the reflex? This is your equivalent.
Right.
So what happens is...
Final polish stage.
Pardon?
This is like the final polish stage, right?
Final. This is the one that I would say, I paint the Vienna lime over the job, then I get this soft brush. Now you could use that one, but clean. By the way, you can put these in the ultrasonic, so you can clean them.
Brushes in there. Yeah.
Clean them. These ones in the ultrasonic as well, ultrasonic. But don't put your mops in the ultrasonic. So anyway, you use it for the job, these little brushes, and they clean it, and then you get all the crap off, and then you can go on to the next stage. If you go in the ultrasonic, then it's wet, then you've got crack stones, and you've got all the risk. This is so gentle. Actually, it's lovely, this one. So one of my students actually said, "Are goats killed for these brushes?" They're not killed. They're not killed. I don't get killed when I have a haircut. So they're like...
Goats are killed in the making of this brush. That's good to know.
My students, they love it the way I am. So anyway, this and the Vienna lime paste, which you can get in America most probably if you go on eBay, it's like chalk. So I think they call it Jasso, Jasso. It's like a chalk powder, and it cleans all the crap off the ring, all in your nooks and crannies. And if you want to go into your nooks, into a pattern, this brush needs to be almost like not as thick. It needs to be cut sort of shorter, and then it gets in the nooks and crannies easier. That's what I do, and it's got a Mohs scale of 3, so it doesn't scratch.
Yeah, so it matches.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wonderful, thank you. Very useful. Next up from Sarah, I'd love to know the best way to get a flawless finish on a plain flat silver pendant. I polish to a high shine, but still sometimes have odd tiny scratches that I can't get rid of. Any thoughts? This
is from the very, very beginning. So when you've done all your file marks and everything, if you don't do that stage 100% at the very beginning, you've got no hope. It's the scars from that very beginning when you tried to cheat. Obviously, look, you can't get this in America, but this stuff, I've been using this week. This is called water of airstone. So you can use buff sticks. This will never wear out. This is so much money. But if you see these on eBay, they've always got to have a red label on them. And if you can sort of see the grain of it, all the way they're made up, they mustn't be sort of a plain grey. They've got to be like a speckled sort of colour.
Right.
This with water. But you can do the same sort of thing with your buff sticks.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go up to 2,000, you will not have these problems ever. Because then you get rid of the tooth. If you was to go for 2,000, dump that, don't even bother with that. You would just go to the cream mop, the bee mop. Then that would make it a shine, and then so it's because you never did it at the very beginning properly, you tried to cheat.
And I find sometimes with pieces that I make, especially when I was more new to jewelry making, is I think I've got everything out. But when I start to polish it, I see things that I couldn't see before, and then I need to go back to get those. So sometimes
what happens is that people don't go back.
Yeah, we have to go back. We have to go back, guys.
It's
frustrating. It is, but it's always the way, isn't it? It's that going back and being like, it's worth it.
I always say, don't be afraid to go back. You must go back.
Yeah, into the darkness. But it's a good question. I'm sure that a lot of people, can kind of relate to that as well.
Yes.
There's a few more questions. Oh, somebody said, could you tell us the name of the black brush that you mentioned, the wheel?
Black bristle brush. Black bristle brush.
Black bristle brush.
Yeah, they do. This is the smallest one, so that one's a small brush. Everybody knows the size. They're called penny brushes, and look, it's the same size. It's quite small. So then you could move on. If you want my other brushes, this is the most popular brush. This one. This is an interesting thing. This is what's happening. You see that little white bit there? Is this something that's been going on with these brushes? I can only think somebody might pop up and say, Steve, this is what you're saying, a load of rubbish. But I think it's so you know which side the brush is when you put it on the spindle. Can only sort of tell me which side to put it, because it's important to know what side of the spindle. You don't want to be putting it on that side. You want to be working from one side or the other. So there's that size, and there's a middle size as well. But they're all black bristle brushes. Quickly, for people who are really confused, on the HS Walsh website, if you type in the word guru on the search bar, maybe 37 of my favourite tools come up. I don't get any, no kickback. But if I was to say to Walsh's, I want one of those to try, they'll send it to me. So it's they sent me 3 different hardnesses of a white brush. So, so go on to Walsh, type in Guru, and then you'll see all the tools that I use. And I just go, these are the tools. Obviously, you're in another country, you don't want to be, maybe even Ireland's a problem. So see what I'm talking about, and then find it.
Yeah, absolutely.
My car is on the Walsh website. All the colours are on the website for the Guru. It's called the Guru list.
There we go. Shopping list sorted.
It's free to you. I don't get anything back. Remember this, no commission.
Yeah. Stephen does this out of the goodness of his heart. He's very giving and supportive. We love that about you, Stephen, because you don't have to be. You don't have to be, and you.
I mean, you talk to lots of people. They won't tell you any secrets, but like that magician, I tell you, tell you all the secrets. But
Well, I think it's important to pass it on as well, because otherwise we're not going to know
in Benchpeg this week in the newsletter, there's actually 3 jobs for polishing. There actually is no polishers to fill those spaces. And one of those jobs was in Tiffany's in the Netherlands. So they need a polisher over there. I teach over there, but I don't want to. I'm nearly 59. I don't want to
You're
start.
slightly tempted. Okay, a few more questions. We're doing well. A few people have been asking about whether the Tripoli and Rouge go off. Some people said they've inherited some that's over 30 years old. Can we still
I
use
would chuck it, to be honest. I mean, it does. I have had some. I mean, I've been in the trade 52 years, and I've still got tools from when I was an apprentice. But the compounds, they get a little bit. I'm surprised the mice ain't eating it. I've got stuff that in my workshop that the mice get to. They love. You'll like this one. It's called elbow grease. Elbow grease. It's not elbow. It's ALBO, and it's they love it. They love that stuff. It's like cheese, and I use it with a black bristle brush and brushing emery to cut the cut down. Gives it a bit more flow for me, but I generally don't like to confuse the issue with elbow grease. They make candles from it as well, actually. So people might know about it in America. It's tallow. That's what you're calling it in America. So right, carry on.
Awesome. Lawrence says, what is the best way to polish indents away, like from rust repair or even pitting without too much loss? So I guess if there's like an indent and you don't want to file it all away because you might lose too much of the metal.
I use a felt. So I don't know if I've got one here. It's a roll of felt. They've got them on the Walsh website. But
on your shopping list.
Roll felt. Yeah. So it's basically you cut this bit off, and you got a bit here. You got like a bit that sort of size, and you can. We call them rollers in the trade, but it's a felt. And if you was to heat it up, here, look, I've got it. It's marvelous. I've got this on. You're going to love this. Look, these are the tools I use. This is pumice block, not pumice powder. What I do is I get a felt. People you can buy a felt. You can buy it for your Dremels. You can buy it anyway. You get a bit of friction, and when it goes around, it starts smoking. And when it smokes, you get your Tripoli, your brown bar, sucks it in, and then you'll get your grooves out, your indents out, because there's no give on this, and you go a smooth action, it will eventually blend in that low spot. But don't forget, when you're going to the low spot, you've got to take away the top of the metal to match the bottom. So it's quick, but you are taking a bit of metal. But if you're doing repairs, some people are using maybe one mop, and they Tripoli on it, they use a Rouge on it, and they go Tripoli, Rouge, and they just go boom, 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 done, boom, 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 done. Whereas for me, when I worked for Theo, one of my rings could take a day. Whereas a jewellery polisher do 200 rings in a day. So it's totally different for me. If I had a job with 200 rings, I would just walk away from it. I couldn't do it. I like to do things. If I was 200 of anything, I'd have to break it up into 10 so I don't get bored.
Yeah. You prefer like focusing on one thing and doing it really well.
Yeah, doing it really good, yeah.
I think most people would agree with that as well. Most of us are making, small kind of batches. There is a question. Thank you for that one. Hopefully that helped, some tips for how to work around the dip. Obviously there's some just technical things that you just can't totally get away from, but there's ways that you can help it, definitely. There's a few questions about Luxie. I know a lot of people have Luxie because it's a vegan alternative. What?
I've got a chart for that.
You've got what?
I've got a chart.
You got a chart for Luxie. Okay, tell us.
Look at Luxie. Give me a moment. Luxie. So, yeah. Yeah, second stage. Yeah. So what do you want to know about Luxie?
So if we were to follow your process but use the Luxie products instead, what ones would you suggest at each
Right.
stage? Where do we start?
So, you know, see that bar there?
Yeah,
That's
like
the equivalent of the and that. So I've done a chart, but all these things that do this second stage.
right. So the light blue Luxie is your Tripoli.
Yeah, yeah.
Got you.
So then obviously you've got that. They get all these in my classes. They all get a download. So you get a
Brilliant.
booklet with all this. I always say this goes beyond the book. So these things are interesting. These things here. These are Alcantara, and they're like synthetic leather. So and you can do them for the Dremels as well. And I do really like them because they're non-fluffy.
Yeah,
So they
they
don't
don't
get
go everywhere.
don't go everywhere, don't go up your nose, they don't make your face dirty or anything like that. So the synthetic leather, okay, they're a little bit more expensive, but they're really good. You know, they are. I think they're worth the money. For somebody like the people here, well, maybe in the trade, £17 for a mop is quite a lot of money when it's going to wear out in a day.
Mm.
But for people who are just people who are working at home, they're going to last them a year. You
Yeah,
know, it's not
yeah.
too bad really.
Yeah. So there's an alternative Luxie for each stage. So what would
Yeah.
replace Rouge? You know?
Rouge, we got the third. When have I got third stage? Yeah, I know. Oh, so this is so efficient, you know. I've got these. Right, you want the Luxie.
Yeah. I'm on the Luxie for stage 1 and stage 3. We've got stage 2, it's light blue. We're on track.
Yeah, so stage 2 is the blue. Um, on the Luxie is a dark. I know there's a dark blue.
Mm.
That's the aggressive one.
That's stage 1.
Stage 1.
So we
That's
start with the dark blue, move on to
dark
the
blue, then light blue, and then you're going to go on to presumably. I haven't got it here. Because
probably the white. Probably the white.
yeah, mostly the white. Because we use in the trade we use a thing called hyphen.
Mm.
Hyphen is like a white bar, so that's equivalent of rouge. And so some people like the white bar, even in the trade. If you've got it polishes stainless steel really, and so your hammers would be great for that. So hyphen, the white finish, perfect. And then obviously move on to that. This is like D1 to do. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh,
There are lots more questions. I'm just going to do a couple of final ones because we started slightly late and hopefully we'll get through. If you guys look at the questions and vote any up that you'd really like Stephen to answer, otherwise I'm just going to keep.
we can always, I always ask. You can ask me on Instagram or something, and we can.
Yeah, we'll give you. We'll let you know where to go and stalk Stephen afterwards.
Yeah.
So somebody said, "What is?" No, sorry, missed that one. Skipping through. Trying to find the ones. Should micro mesh be washed every now and again?
Yeah, it's waterproof. Yeah, I wash it. I really like. I expect there's other makes. You know, I mean, there's the pads with the sponges and all that, but wash them. These ones are really old, but I use them mainly on my courses, and that's how big they are. They're not very big, so you get, I think, a pack of 3 or 4 be 24 quid. It's a lot of money, but it's going to last you a long time. So, and this is what I use rather than using a Dremel. I use these things. These that like start that. So I put all the little tools in there, and it's called a handy chuck. So basically, for you, it's like that. It's like what you put your scorpers in. So they go in one of these little converters, and then we put it onto the spindle, and I can use the tools. So I hardly ever use a Dremel or a Fordham. I'd only use that maybe for shiny holes. So I'll get the shine it up, then carry on like that.
Mm.
Another thing they might be interested, I know it might not come up, barrel polishing. Oh, barrel polishing. They all their eyes light up when I talk about
We like a barrel polish on
barrel
occasion.
polish. I know because we're running out of time, but I always tell everybody take the pins out. Those pins are to get into your nooks and crannies. If you haven't got any nooks and crannies, you don't need the pins in there, to be quite
Mm.
honest. So I always just said, no flying saucers, no pins, just balls. And you can get various sizes of balls. Dare I say Cooksons. I know Cooksons sell the various sizes of the balls. And you've got jobs that you're doing on a regular basis because barrel is to do with viability. So basically, for me, maybe a job might be worth 30 quid. You don't want to be spending an hour polishing it. You want to be putting it in the barrel, and you might be having 100 of those in the barrel at one time.
Yeah.
So I always say to people, leave in, if it's silver, leave it in for about 3 hours minimum, not an hour. Yeah, not an hour. And what happens with a barrel is if it's light, it takes longer. If it's heavy, it takes quicker.
Right.
I was polishing, when I first started many years ago, I was doing Evening Standard Awards and the Eros wings. And we put it in a barrel for 8 hours. It's a wing like that. 8 hours, there's no feathers left. So you know everything. So obviously, if you put in sharp objects with another sharp object, it's a no-go. And I never ever put stones. Never put stones in any barrel. I just imagine stainless steel is 5, and you've got stones. You know, quartz 7. You might be safe on a quartz, but you're not really below on the hardness scale. So I've got a job to show you. Right, I'm on. Do you want
Go
to
for it. Go for it. We're here for it. Learning so much. Love it. Thank you guys for being here as well. Yes. Oh, wow. That's a big one.
This is the sort of jobs that I get to do. Look at that.
Wow. That's a bit bigger than what we're used to.
Yeah, a bit bigger. So
Amazing.
this is not a sculpture made in America.
That's not going to go in a barrel polish, is it?
No, that was made by a guy called Granger. And
So how long would that take you to polish?
well, that's been polished before. If it wasn't polished, it would take me about 3 days. So, yeah, so a ring, I mean, jewellery polishers, they like do those in 5 minutes. Whereas I would take maybe more like half an hour, you know, and I'd charge accordingly as well. Just because, you know, I just on my own, I would charge what I charge, you know, and they know that. And it's like with sculptures, if you give me a sculpture like I did, I did Kate Moss. So I didn't want it to be like a Rolls Royce figure. I wanted to be more satin finish. So people would give me the job and they'd know what I'm going to do. They're not going to get a shiny finish.
Yeah.
Why are we 9:06?
Yeah, I've got one more to finish off.
I'm all right. It's just everybody else going on.
This is from Zahir, who says, how can we get a good finish on highly textured pieces?
That's really good.
Not mirror finish, but yeah.
Not a mirror finish, it's textured. So what I do is, you know, when it's gone through the fire, it's all white. So what I do is I get a brass brush. You can buy those for your Dremel. Better really for the Dremel. And you get some fairy liquid, other makes available, whatever you have in America. You know, the concentrated liquid. And I mix it in water, but fairly concentrated. So I dip in the brass brush on, say, with this. Look, there's a texture on that, look. So if this was white, I'd use a brass brush all in that, and then it would bring up the background. So if you didn't do that, you just go over with a mop, and then or a brush or whatever you want to do, then a mop, then you clean, and what happened in the background, it will still be white. So you must use, we call it scratch brushing in the trade. But basically for you, it's like a brass brush with fairy liquid, whiz over to the background, all your little balls and all in the backgrounds, all your textures. Just go over with that. It'll bring up your background. If you haven't got one, if you've got one of these, a fine one of those, that also gets in your nooks and crannies. The white is a white coloured one, and you can get into your nooks. But I really do prefer a brass brush. Now, the reason I use fairy liquid or any other liquid is if you do it dry, the brush will make your job go brown. It contaminates the brass, will contaminate the silver.
Right. So you need water and fairy liquid.
You need some sort of lubricant. So I use fairy liquid. But in the when I was a boy, we used to use a thing called size, which is like glue and water. What you put on the walls when you're wallpapering. You use that to seal the walls. So now, and that was like horse glue, so it really stunk like a dog's breath. So
you have to do that, thankfully.
Use fairy liquid, you're much better off.
Yeah. Be grateful that fairy liquid was invented for this reason. Wonderful. So you do like you tend to do like you wouldn't do a high shine on a textured piece because
so basically what I like to do, if I want to get the textured piece, I think textured pieces look better more matte than shiny. So if you do it too bright, it takes the detail out of it, because you're trying to get it shiny. So imagine that job trying to get those feathers. So basically you blend it all in. So you go with the brass brush. Then you don't use it. You use maybe a finishing mop. If you just want to brighten it up, the finishing mop is the Reflex, a white coloured mop. Just go over lightly. I don't tend to use
stage 3. Back to our stage 3.
Stage 3.
Yeah.
Brighten up lightly. Use that bar, and you'll be. I'm looking forward to you. You're all coming back to me on Instagram saying you were so right.
Show us your shiny pieces. Yeah, we want to see them.
Show us your shiny pieces. I had it was funny during the day today on Instagram. I had various questions, and I did this with Retail Jeweler, that we had a hashtag put up. We set up a hashtag like Ask Goldsmith, or it was Retail Jeweler was Ask, so hashtag Ask Stephen Goldsmith. So if you set up a hashtag for that sort of thing, then we can get the questions, and hopefully we can maybe do something else, or you can put it out in a little podcast or something. Some of the answers.
Yeah, sounds good. What should we have as our hashtag? I feel like we need a new one. What about Ask Guru?
Ask Guru, yeah. Ask Guru.
Okay.
Ask Guru.
Hashtag Ask Guru. So if we didn't get to your question today, because there were loads, which is awesome.
She won't tell you, but it's 381 in this talk. Can you imagine it? 381 people.
There we go.
I'm so honoured, to be honest. I'm really honoured that you've all come on. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Stephen. We're very lucky to have you. So if people want to find you and send you a message and say thank you afterwards, where's the best place for them to go?
Obviously, Instagram is Gold Polisher. But some people might, earlier on I was hacked. Well, 38 weeks ago I was hacked on that account, and they've all blocked me on Gold Polisher. So I actually got another one called Gold Polishing Guru on Instagram. That's a much smaller account. That's only maybe 2,500, and the interaction's amazing. So you can get me on Gold Polishing Guru. You'll find me, and then follow. If you don't have to follow, you ask me a question. But I'll put a rule in on my comments that you have. On my comment, you must be following to be able to comment.
Yeah, well, we want to follow you. You're awesome.
Is interfering with me.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much again. Thank you guys for being patient with some of our tips. And also just a quick plug that we have another bench tips session next month. It's on stone setting, which is an amazing topic. we're joined by an amazing jeweler, Anelia Caprina, who is a fine jeweler, an award-winning fine jeweler based in London. She knows a lot about stone setting. We're going to be answering your questions, a similar style. Anna has the link, so you guys can sign up right away if you want to join us for that one as well. So she'll put that in the chat in just a moment. And we'll also send you an email with the replay from today and the sign up for the next one, because these are a lot of fun. So again, Stephen, thank you so much for sharing this with us. You are awesome. We will see you guys again soon.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.